Hello everybody, I'm back working on the LDV 400, or Leyland DAF, not LDV. That's my new shut-off valve. You can see that's what a healthy looking rubber cut-off tip should look like. And that's, oops, well that's getting even worse now. That's the old one, split and cracked. So basically was allowing fuel to go through, so even when the ignition was cut and the 12 volts was removed from that, it was still allowing fuel to get through. Anyway, I am going to take that little terminal off, just a spade for the wire, shove it back in and then try it and see if it works. New one is in. Let's go start it up and see if it turns off when I turn the key off, which is of course the problem we had previously. I can't see why it wouldn't work. It's very, very, very cold today. We'll see whether it wants to start. Come on. I'll need a bit of a preheat. I think it's just so cold today. It's not happy. I don't think it needs bleeding. Maybe it does. Maybe that's what's taken a while. Yeah, it's just cold. Anyway, so last time what would happen is I would turn the key off and basically the revs would drop, but it would still keep running. So I'm going to switch the key off and see what happens this time. Well, that's interesting. Is that thing working at all? Nope. So I've just pulled it back out of the engine, and what I'm noticing straight away is this spring feels really weak. The spring inside this thing in the old one was quite positive and gave a fair bit of force. I don't know, maybe I'm imagining it, but basically the solenoid operates with the power probe, so I shall demonstrate now. Definitely working. It's just for some reason not staying across the port and holding it shut. I did even wonder whether it's a dimension thing, whether it's the body is not quite the same size. Could it be that that is just not bedding down deep enough into the port to close it off? So I'm going to continue to play and see if I can't work it out. The other option is I take the rubber cover off this one and put it on there, but there's no, I can't pull this one out yet. It's like it's actually quite well in there. This piston just falls out, so so aggravating. It should be like a 5-minute job. Right, I have now managed to pull the rubber cover off that piston, shove it on this one. I'm going to put this one back in the van and see whether this one will work. Annoying. God damn, I'm so pissed off with this. Right, I basically was realising that the new one doesn't have enough internal spring force to push that valve against the body and turn it off. So despite being brand new and having a decent seal, it doesn't work. This one, I was intending to fit that rubber seal onto the end of that one's piston, which I have put down here, and then put it back in the vehicle. Unfortunately, this is an extremely loose fit in here and falls out every time you turn it up and put it in there. It bounced out and I've lost the spring. So now I'm basically foobar because, well, not foobar, it's fucked up beyond all recognition. I'm basically screwed because I can't get that one apart to change the spring, or deburr it or whatever it is that's causing it to hang on. Meanwhile, I can't find the spring for that one, and even if I can find the spring, I can't actually turn it up that way to put it in the fuel pump because it falls apart. So right now, really pissed off, and it started raining again, so I'm going to go in. It is another, I'll just turn that light away, cold, damp evening. Not sure how many of these bits of video I'm going to upload, but brief summary. I might be summarising stuff you've just watched, but I'm not very good at editing videos. So I had bought myself a new fuel shut-off valve, but I found that even when I fitted that one, the engine didn't switch off. When I inspected it, the spring inside was very much weaker than the original spring. I was going to take the two apart, swap bits over, swap the springs over, but the new one wouldn't come apart. So I basically wrote to the guy on eBay I got the new one from. Don't remember the company name. I might put a link up if I can be bothered. But basically, I had a moan, and they said, yeah, sure, no problem. And they sent one out, another one, super damn fast, 24-hour postage, no additional cost to me, and an item that was only costing £9. That's a pretty amazing service. And fitted the new one. The spring felt much nicer, and it now starts and stops off the key as it should do. So a nice happy story about eBay sellers who actually care about their customers, which is nice, and products that if they're faulty they return and post out new ones immediately. But there we go, engine starting, running off the key, turning off from the key, so all very good and happy. I've got a guy coming to fit tyres on Friday, and the only other thing that I can't get working, which should be working, is the rear fog lights. So that is what I'm going to do now. It's a bit late and dark for filming, so I'm not sure how much actual filming I'll do or how much you can see, because this is still that old knackered GoPro and it's not very good in low light conditions. While I was just tidying up things in the front here, thought I'd take a look at the air filter. It's got a DAF label on it still, so it's very dirty and ripe for replacement, methinks. Is that oil? Is that water? Oil. So it's not too bad. It's not flooded with oil, but obviously the air intake has a recirculation to it, so crank breather on the top there is recycled into there, and a little bit of crap. But yeah, I can measure that and make sure I order the correct one. It's quite a chunky beast actually, metal both ends, metal around the outside, and then a rubber seal on the bottom. Quite a chunky kiddie. So that does look very old. I'll swap that. I also plan on doing an oil filter change, an oil change just for good measure. Obviously all the brake fluid's new, coolant's new, glow plugs are new. It starts on the button now and it turns off on the button, which is nice. So for a van that hadn't run for 18 months, it's really quite impressive. Diesels are good like that. If you saw my video on the SD1 turbo diesel, that chugged into life with really very little effort indeed. Anyway, I will continue tidying up the front and then crack on with the fog lights. It's a beautiful crisp day and I am playing with the van. I'm replacing these old speakers with newer ones. Higher power output. They're just £10 a pop. They're not amazing, but they're just better than the originals. The new ones have that kind of terminal, small for negative, big for positive, and a black and then a black white wire, so you can tell which is which. The original van has two terminals the same size. One is black with white trace, one is black with blue trace, and I don't know which is which, but I know which orientation that connector goes in, and I'm going to check this speaker with a battery, and then I'll be able to work out which is positive, and then I can wire them up accordingly. I actually rang my mate Richard, who is a Very clever chap, but also used to fit stereos at Halfords. And he said it probably doesn't actually matter so long as you get them both consistent, so both speakers the right way around, because then at least they're in phase. But he said the way to check is to get a battery, energise the wires, and if it's the right way round, the speaker will push out. So that's a demonstration of connected with negative and positive the correct way round. So all I need to do is replicate this on this one, see which way the speaker moves, and then I know which of these two wires by working back and looking at the plug, which was positive and which was negative. So basically that terminal there is negative, so on the plug the cross of the T which is that top one, black white, which kind of makes sense. I've already tinned those two fly wires and I've got some insulation for them, and I've just pulled the wires through the door, cut the plug off, and I'm going to put some solder on those ones to right. That is negative. And it's cold, by the way, hence the breath. Done. One more side to do. I'm genuinely impressed how much difference that's made, even though I'm using an old shitty Philips. But I love it because it's period correct and everything. But yeah, that does make a difference. And bearing in mind that the old speakers weren't actually damaged and the new ones are £10 a pop. They're cardboard cone. They actually have made a difference to the sound quality. So result, next job. Time to put the door cards back on. The card itself is quite fragile and it's held to the door not only by the pockets and things like that, but these plastic clips which slide into the cardboard and then press fit into the holes in the door. They're quite fragile, as are the recesses in the cardboard, This door card's okay, but because I knew I'd be doing this job a while ago, somebody listed some door cards and other bits and pieces on eBay, and I went and bought some of them. So these clips where the tops have broken off, although that would still probably just about work, I'm going to salvage some of the clips from these door cards. These are grubby, torn, speaker covers are dented. The speakers actually are mounted directly on the door card on this one, which is different to my van, but we do have decent clips. I think you might still be able to buy them from Bresco, but I can't be bothered, so I'm just going to reuse these. But this is what normally happens. They get wet and rot out because it's just chipboard, whereas my door cards are actually really nice. So I'll slide some more of these in, fit the door card, and then refit. Oh, actually, yeah, the door pockets have to go on first. Somebody suggested, I forget your name, but putting a washer between the little metal captives, these things, and the pockets, just to spread the load a little bit. So I'll do that, and I think I'll also glue these and the washers to the back of here, so if I ever forget or anyone else forgets, they're not in the same conundrum I am, which is having bits drop into the door that you can't get back. Anyway, I shall carry on with that. You've got big washers on the back there. I've also put new tape on here. I think it's to stop the staples from rubbing on the metal. It doesn't stick very well because it's cold, and the card and the vinyl is quite dusty, but it's better than nothing, so shove that back on. Door cards in and done. So we have still need to clean the outside of the van, but actually the passenger compartment, this side of it, is looking really nice. The only thing I really need to do is strip that seat base, take it to a trimmer, get them to rebuild the base using the parts from the other seat. But yeah, dash all looks lovely, door card is nice. There's a hole in the mat down there which I need to fix, but other than that it's all super. One of the big failures apparently of these vans is the kingpins, because people forget to grease them. So I've bought myself a grease gun and a can of generic multi-purpose grease, and I'm going to get under there and grease it. Reading online, you must jack it up, otherwise the grease only comes out the bottom kingpin, or the bottom part of the kingpin joint and not the top, and I think that's part of the problem with these wearing out. People don't realise that. So I'm going to jack it up one side at a time, load the grease gun, prime the grease gun, whack a load of grease in. Well, here we are under the van. I haven't got an axle stand under it, but it can't go anywhere because the tyre's still on, so at the most it can drop by like an inch. The two grease nipples, one is there, the other one is the same position but on the top. I've never done this before, and I've never used a grease gun before, so this could be quite interesting. But basically what I understand you to do is to pump crap in here, or grease in there, which pushes the crap out of that joint there. This does look like it's had grease because it's all still contaminated around, but how much is actually in the kingpin joint I don't know, so we shall do a bit of squidging and basically see what happens. Incidentally, there's loads of videos on the internet of how to prime grease guns and why it's important. Oh look, you can actually see grease coming out of it now. I don't know how much you're meant to put in, but that's my fresh grease being pushed out. So I guess that is all you do. Answers on a postcard. Oh, I'd like to get that off. Some of these have a release gate. This Draper one doesn't. It says you twist it at an angle and then pull and it should release, but it doesn't seem to want to at the moment, that's for sure. Brilliant. There we go. think that's on a swivel, or I hope it is, otherwise it's just done itself up a bit, but it ain't come loose. Right, that one is up there. Same story again. The obvious fault with all of this is you're putting grease really close to your brakes, which is not normally a good idea. Going back to priming the tool, this one has like a bleed valve here. I didn't use that, I just unscrewed this, pumped it a few times, and then when grease came out, nipped that back up, and it doesn't seem to have had a problem. It seems to be working fine so far to my uneducated eye and feel. Ugh. This is quite a lot more resistive, as in the trigger is a lot harder to press this time. Is grease coming out? Can't see any yet. I think we got a bit of a problem this side. It doesn't come out as freely. You can just see it, a lot of it is around the top there, and only a little bit has been squirted out here, so I can just see another little bit in there, so I think it has done it. It's just been a lot tougher work. Incidentally, you might notice these pipes are kinked forward. That's because when this is full lock, these want to hit that, which would be an instant MOT failure, so they've just been massaged out of the way, which is why they look a little bit funny. Probably what would have been better is if I'd, like, I don't know how it was done originally. That bracket is in the right orientation and everything, but really the whole thing wants to be shifted forward. It's not a great design. On the later ones, the feed goes in here on the convoys, so to get around that problem, I guess. Right, I'm going to jack up the mud and grease that too. We're now under the near side, sorry. Same process again. Doesn't look like there's been as much grease on this side in the past, so we shall apply the goo and see what happens. Is it on? That feels like it's on. I think they must be on like a swivel. Oh, that feels really tough. I think I need to look at this gun perhaps, because it's only working right at the very end of its travel. One moment. I think we might have a bit of a problem. I've checked the gun. Gun's definitely fine, as you can tell by these small slug poo type things. But when it's connected up to the van, doesn't matter how hard I squeeze, it's very, very difficult to squeeze anything in there, if at all, and nothing is coming out yet. So I'm going to persevere a little bit longer, but I think perhaps there's an issue, and maybe that pin is completely, well, filled with rust, and therefore grease can't get in. But yeah, I'm going to try it a bit longer and just see what happens. It might come good. That top one did on the other side eventually come good, so I'm hoping this one will too. No. Fuck. That's how you break a grease nipple. Fuck's sake. This, basically, don't buy this grease gun, it's shit. It has a snap-on, snap-off top, and with a very harsh spring, which basically leads you to snap off bleed nipples like that. That's extremely annoying. Fuck socks. Going back to this grease gun again, I am the sort of person that does occasionally read instructions, and so I read all of the instructions for this thing, and the instructions are quite clear. You push the fitting on. When you want to remove it, you twist it at an angle and then pull. But this is still well in there, that nipple. Cannot shift it with pliers, the vice, whatever. It's basically the springs in there just seem to be so amazingly tight on it, you can't get it out. So no wonder it broke off. So yeah, not very good, Draper. The other ones I've seen have a screw gate so that this union actually tightens up on the end of the bleed nipple, and then of course it's really easy to release. This one, not so much. Fucking thing. Starting to think maybe it's these grease nipples that are the problem. That's the one that broke, and I've just pulled it out, and basically there's no grease on the downstream side, so I don't think grease has ever been going through the bleed nipple. So that, I think, is part of the problem. So I'm going to get a new end for my gun, and I'm going to get 4 new nipples, swap them all over, and then do it again. Since I have no service history for this thing, I thought it'd be a good idea to give it an oil change. Given up on kingpins at the moment, I need to order new grease nipples, but what I have got is oil and an oil filter. They've put the oil filter in a really annoying place, so I'm going to have to give lots of rags around that, because as soon as I undo that, it's going to piss oil everywhere. But first step is to drain the oil. This one has a sump plug with one of those weird keys, like just a square section thing rather than being a nut or a bolt. But yeah, we'll get that undone, drain the oil, leave it drained for quite a while so that I can get that oil filter off without making too much mess. Hopefully in here, drain plug key set, I've got the right one. There's a bit of crap in there, so I can't actually work out whether it is a square or whether it's something else. I think it's a little square one, which I do not appear to have, unless that's the one. Yes, okay, we have a winner. This thing has been running this morning, just a little bit to warm the oil up, to help it flow out, so it should be pretty good. Oh, fuck me. Jesus Christ. Whoever did that did a right job on it. Can I do it without getting oil everywhere? Oh my god, that is really, really thick. Don't know whether you'll be able to see this. There's actually some sort of weird sealant on this too. I thought it was sludge, but it's not. I think it's somebody's put some bodging paste on there. That copper washer is completely deformed, so I think somebody's done it up and absolutely monstered it, and we'll have to find another washer maybe before I put it all back together again. Alright, that can sit and drain, and I'll go find some rags for the oil filter. Old oil filter is off. Annoyingly, because of the arrangement, you can't pre-fill them, which is a bit, I don't know, a bit weird, but never mind. I'll put the new filter on. I was expecting that to be a bit of an arse, because the oil sump plug was in so hard. I figured somebody would have monstered that on too, but it was hand tight, which is good. Oil filter is in. On the right we have the old mangled sump plug washer. That's a new alloy one I've found in my box of bits, so that can go back in, and then I shouldn't need any sealer on it either. There's something really strange with this sump plug. Basically,
even when it's, you know, I haven't done it up yet, that's all the sea that's coming out, but it's like the captive thread inside is on kind of slidable plate. I've never seen that before, so if you have, let me know, because I'm going to do this up now and then pour oil in it and see what happens, but there's something funny with that. I've never seen it before.
Oil change complete. Took about 6 litres in the end, which is about right. It still hasn't come right up to the level yet. I've just run it and it's filled the filter a little bit and dropped again, but it's such a cold day, it's taken a long time for it to drop back to the bottom, so I'll just keep an eye on it, top it up when it needs it. Just climbed under the van because I was going to grease the prop shaft UJs, but it doesn't have grease nipples on it, so that's a surprise. So it is only the kingpins that need greasing. I've ordered, I hope, the right size grease nipples, and they should arrive in the week, and then I'll take the old ones out, put new ones in, try and grease it again.